Good morning. Before we begin, I've been asked to remind us all to please put away our phones and to put them on silence. Thank you. Now, I realize that none of us, when we woke up this morning and started getting ready to come, thought that this morning would be a good one, and it isn't. Today is a day that none of us ever wanted to arrive, a day in which we've come together to honor and remember my Auntie Ludim, who meant so much to each one of us. For my part, I remember my aunt as being the best part of so many family get-togethers. From her Tweety Bird tattoo, for those of you who didn't know, she had one, to her rare but always perfectly timed use of mild profanity. She was the rebel that this uptight young Adventist always aspired to be. But regardless of her age or mine, it has always been so affirming to just be drawn into her orbit of warm sarcasm and besos, quesadillas and apple slices, and her genuine interest in whatever was going on in my life. She was the best part of our good times and our bad. I am sure I'm not the first one to describe her as the glue that held our family together. She had this remarkable gift of finding herself in the middle of a situation, one I'm sure she wanted no part of, and still finding a way to be the best part of it for all of us. Which brings us again to this morning. If Ludim could see us all here today, tearing up and sniffling on her account, I am sure she would not approve. She'd call us all a bunch of bozos. A title she gave me more than once, but when she did, it always meant, I don't like what you're doing, but I love you for doing it. So today, let us honor our auntie, tia, mother, partner, sister, fufu, friend, and damn good human, by being for one another the best part of a day that none of us wanted. So from us bozos to all of you bozos, welcome and good morning.
Ludim was the most consistent adult family member of my entire life. There was never a time when I doubted her love for me. And from the time that I was very little until now, I've just never once questioned it. There was never a reason to. She loved me, and I loved her. And one of the things that I could count on consistently was whether it had been last week from when I was growing up and we would have family dinners regularly, or whether I was back to California visiting family, or whether she was in Denver visiting us. I could always count on when she opened the door, or if I opened the door, her greeting would always be, "Hi, sweetie, how are you?" And I knew from that point on, after that phrase, again, no matter if I was 5 or how old I am now, we were going to catch up, and we were going to have a good time, and we were going to laugh, and she was going to genuinely be interested in whatever was going on in my life. And so now this morning, to you, I say, "Hi, sweetie, how are you?"
Most of the things I want to say to honor Ludim aren't usually said in a church. So let me summarize it like this. Ludim showed me that just because a man behind a pulpit said it, it didn't make it so. She took great pleasure in finding the line, laughing at it, crossing over it, and throwing a party on the other side. Everyone was invited. Much to my surprise, no hellfire rained down. It was just safe to be ourselves. There was also pizza. and when I was older, there was wine. Ludim taught me that being irreverent is also a way to worship the divine with fierce, unapologetic joy. The thing I will miss most about Ludim is her smile, which always managed to say, "Things aren't all right, but that's okay. We're going to have a good time anyway." It's a smile that told the truth in a way nobody else did when I was growing up. What I mean to say is that if there is a heaven, Jesus is sharing a bottle of his best wine with Ludim, and they are lovingly making fun of all of us right now, laughing and crying where appropriate. You won't find it in the official lyrics, but the very last line of the Aerosmith song, Amazing, is, "The light at the end of the tunnel may be you." Ludim, you are that light to so many. Today we celebrate your light. Thank you. Amen. Save me a glass.
Join me in a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, you know better than anyone that my aunt would not want me praying on her behalf, so I won't. Instead, I pray that you grant each one of us here the wisdom, humor, compassion, and strength to now be the blessing to one another that she was to us. So for today and from now on, I pray that we give each other more healing than scars, more grace than judgment, more laughter than tears, and more wine than, well, Ludim would just want us to have more wine. In the name of what is and was and what comes next, amen.
Cousins are friends that will love forever. How can you describe a cousin who is a forever friend in just a few minutes and with just a few stories? Even as a young cousin, Ludim had a loving spirit. She was spontaneous, witty, funny, and incredibly talented. Speaking of talent, young Ludim became a piano sensation at a very early age. I remember her mostly playing for church, but also at family and social events. She could bring the house down, playing her favorite La Malagueña. I can still picture her sitting at the edge of the piano bench with her long hair braided in a ponytail, struggling to reach the pedals and the keys at the same time. Since childhood years, the Vendrell sisters would look at Ludim and always think that she was just so beautiful. Over the years, we realized that her beauty was radiating from within her beautiful heart. As the years went by and the great distance separated us while Ludim and her family were missionaries in Venezuela, our physical contact diminished, but never, never our love. As cousins, we were very fortunate, and we will forever be grateful to our parents for modeling the importance of family love and unity. To intentionally plan frequent family reunions and family vacations, we take on a very, not yearly, but very often. We took that closeness from childhood into our adult years with yearly cousin reunions and with any excuse that we could have to get together. You can see some of those in our slideshow here, especially the cousin cruise. That was very memorable. Ludim was not only my cousin, sister, and friend, but she was also my college roommate at Pacific Union College. The smart aleck guys often asked her, "Where did you get your name?" Her classic response was, "Go look it up, Genesis 10:13. Truly, her name was unique as she was. Ludim, we, your cousins, already missed you very much. You have left an immense gap in our hearts. We can hardly wait for that soon coming day when we will be reunited with an eternal family reunion in heaven. Oh, what a day that will be."
Hello, I'm Jenny. Ludim was such a blessing in my life and in the life of my kids. And I'm so grateful because I truly experienced unconditional love with her. So grateful. And no matter what we did, she loved us anyway. As a cousin, family was so important to her. The cousins' reunions were fun because she would show up and in her classy, beautiful way, just make it so fun. Personally, I was fortunate to have lived in the same town with her as a young woman, and I was around her little family for 20 years, and we shared so much, carpooling and just being in their home, which we always felt welcome. Years later, I brought my grandchildren to her Palm Springs home, and they got to feel that warm welcome, too. One of the things that is epic with Ludim is that we had some wonderful escapes. We were great partners in just having girls' night out. And we did it as much as we could, and we celebrated whatever we could celebrate, or sometimes just because we wanted to get together. I was part of some epic trips that we planned and put together. We always wanted to see our favorites. We'd go into LA to see Carole King and James Taylor and Elton John, and of course Aerosmith, her beloved Aerosmith. There was one occasion where Judith and I talked her into going to San Francisco to run a half marathon. Ludim and I, we took our time on that run. We finished, but we were saving our energy for some power shopping afterwards. Yep. Then there was the Las Vegas trips that were epic because there was more favorites to be seen. Tom Jones, the Rolling Stones, and of course, Ludim style, we had to take the bra and panties and throw them up on stage to make it, to do that. Most importantly, I just wanted to share that I could share anything with her. She was my go-to girl. I could share my ordinary frustrations, my heartaches, my joys, and Ludim would listen. She'd offer understanding, she'd offer comfort, she offered validation. Ludim lightened my life.
This morning, I share these words of love with the Camacho Guzman family on behalf of my brother Hugo and my sister Mirtha and the entire Ruiz family. Familia. This has ever been a special word with deep meaning to all of our family. We believe there was a plan of divine design long before any of our families came to this great country. A plan that destined not just one family, but all of our families to come as our beloved parents sought a brighter future with more opportunities for their children. We lived relatively close to each other and were thus able to grow up more like brothers and sisters than cousins, a large, loving, caring family. Our parents and our dear Abuelita Isabel, the matriarch of our family taught us how to love and care for each other. We've played and worked together. We've shared the joys and sorrows that life brings. And today, we must comfort each other as we learn to accept the great loss that we have all suffered. With the exception of our beloved Tia Angie Bendrell, Tia Domi Lara, and Tio Juanito Herrera, all our parents now rest in Jesus. And no matter how advanced in years we, the children, now are, it is at painful times like these that we especially miss our parents' comforting words and reassuring love. We have lost one of our own, our sister cousin. This has left a huge void in all of our hearts. We will all miss her beautiful smile and contagious laughter, her kind and gentle heart, and hearing her say to us, "I love you, Chiquita." It is our prayer that we all find comfort in the promise of a soon-coming Savior, a beautiful family reunion, and the fulfillment of the promise found in Revelation 21:4. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there will be no more death, nor sorrow, or crying, or pain. All these things will be gone forever. We love you.
You have heard so many beautiful things and reminders about Ludim. And as you all know by now, Ludim was an exceptional human. From very young until the day she left, Ludim exuded kindness, love, empathy with her direct and blunt attitude. At age 12, Ludim, along with Tio Alberto and Tia Rosita, her parents and her sisters, visited my family in Peru. We had been touring around, and one day, in a cold day, we were walking in downtown Lima. Ludim watched with dismay a woman with her uncovered daughter. The little girl was cold. Ludim turned to Tia Rosita and adamantly said, "I have to give this girl my sweater." Ludim proceeded to remove her sweater and told her mom, "Please give it to her." Yes, Ludim was generous. During her teen years in Venezuela, where I joined them for 2 summers, she was admired and loved by her classmates. She carried herself with class and was a role model to her peers. Ludim was an accomplished professional on her own right. On the late 80s and 90s, Ludim and I worked together in San Bernardino County Department of Public Health. She was a great advocate to her patients and was not afraid to encourage changes in healthcare policies to support her patients. When she worked at the Inland Empire Regional Center, also in San Bernardino County, she was admired for her professional and caring attitude. Ludim was loyal. As a cousin, she had our backs and celebrated together the epic moments of all of our lives, whether they were sad or happy. She was a grand and faithful friend. Many of you here can attest to that. Speaking about friendship, the bond between Ludim, Esther, and Sandrita was and is admirable. It speaks to the values taught from young by their parents and their faith in God. Yes, we heard that Ludim had all kinds of quirks. Yes, she was funny, sassy, stylish. Her zest and panache for life was unique. She knew how to brighten people's day with her attitude and sometimes sarcastic jokes. Esther and Sandy, your precious sister, left a powerful legacy of strength and commitment. but the memories you built together will be yours forever to keep and present in your minds and hearts. Ludim had many finest moments in her life and a plethora of achievements, but she always said that being a mother of her three treasures were the best accomplishments of her life. Melissa, Michelle, Megan, you were her #1 priority. She was definitely so proud to be a grandmother. Yes, a sassy grandmother to Evan, Emma, Lilia, and Sonia. My precious cousin Ludim will be forever in our hearts. Rest in peace, Chiquita, always with us until we see you again, as the Lord has promised us. Thank you.
My mom didn't have a bucket list. She enjoyed the simple things, time with her family, laughing, and Louboutins. In one of our last conversations, she told me, every time I do something that feels special or important, I add it to my bucket list, so my list is always complete. Ludim Amelia was born on June 13, 1953, in Cochabamba, Bolivia, to Alberto and Rosa Guzman. In 1955, the family, now including her sister and constant companion Esther, moved to the US, where they lived in Santa Ana with Dios Vendrell. From 1955 to 1965, the family moved through the California Valley from Corona to St. Helena to Hayward and added another sister, Sandrita, along the way. During these years, Tio Tony and Tio George bribed Mom and Tia Esther with pennies and nickels to do their church cleaning for them. In 1966, when Ludim was 13, the family moved to Venezuela, which required a 2-week voyage aboard a Japanese passenger cargo ship. She and Esther learned to play ping pong with the crew, a skill she was very proud of. I'd like to think that take a 2-week sea voyage and learn to play ping pong was quickly added and checked off Ludim's bucket list.
In Venezuela, the family lived in Maracaibo, where Mom and her sisters attended an Adventist school. While Ludim first started playing piano when she was 6 years old, during her time in Venezuela, she became a performer. Much to her teenage dismay, her dad, who was a pastor, would regularly call her from the altar to play La Malagueña. Mom shared fond and funny memories from these years, including boys throwing translucent frogs at her and her friends, and trying to avoid iguanas dropping out of the trees while hanging laundry to dry. Shortly after graduating from high school, the family returned to the US. Ludim attended Pacific Union College and then Loma University, where she received her BS in nursing. Mom admitted to me that she was never one to have perfect grades, so graduating was a sigh of relief and another check off her bucket list.
In the midst of her studies, Ludim achieved incredible success on the piano. She performed with the Napa Valley Symphony Orchestra in March 1973, playing Camille Saint-Saëns' Carnival of the Animals. In May 1975, Ludim performed Mozart Piano Concerto with the La Sierra University Orchestra. Mom continued to play for the rest of her life. My sisters and I have many happy memories of sitting on the living room floor, listening to her play for hours and hours. She accompanied me on the piano for my USC Music School audition. She helped her future son-in-law, John, learn the Beethoven Moonlight Sonata. And for the last several years, she spent many happy hours playing with her dear friend and accomplished pianist, Larry. While finishing up nursing school in Loma Linda, Mom found herself in the well-known cliche of doctor meets nurse, and quickly fell for Dr. Elber Camacho. Knowing he was about to leave for his residency in New York City, they married in 1975. As was the SDA tradition of the time, he gave her an engagement watch rather than a ring. On their way to the honeymoon, the flight attendants asked whether they were really married. So shortly after landing in Hawaii, they bought some simple gold-colored bands at a convenience store. Thus began a new love affair for my mom, her jewelry. Living in the Big Apple checked another newly established item off her bucket list, so she immediately added another one, being a mom. She welcomed me, her first daughter, Melissa Ludim, in 1977. She was helped in raising me by a community of doctors' wives at Winston House and developed lifelong friendships, including with dear friend Nancy D.
The family of three moved to California in 1979 and quickly welcomed their second daughter, me, Michelle Esther. In Loma Linda, Ludim again formed a community of moms. Vanita Bounds and Mom quickly became the Lucy and Ethel of Loma Linda. This included aerobics, collecting antiques, and visits to Katie McGuire's for muffins and coffee after workouts. Ludim was also ecstatic to be near her extended family, including many cousins with kids our age, and the Camacho cousins too. The 80s and 90s brought a long season of laughter, running, eating, with the No Wimps Eating and Running Club, weightlifting, cousins reunions, Sabbath lunches, school performances galore, and trips to Mammoth with dear friends and their med and nursing school days, John and Judy Cutts. Mom constantly bantered with John and found a close confidant in Judy throughout the years. Mom's work with the Inland Regional Center was also a significant part of her life during this time. She provided support for families whose babies and toddlers had significant developmental disabilities. We heard about the challenges, like her avoiding sitting anywhere while doing home visits with families in nudist colonies. But mostly, she taught us love and acceptance for those others might see as different. She had a special place in her heart for children experiencing autism, hydrocephalus, cerebral palsy, and Down syndrome. A special thank you to those who have donated to the National Down Syndrome Society in her honor. In 1991, Mom had one of the biggest surprises of her life, Megan Sandra. With a 14-year-old and an almost 11-year-old driving her a little crazy, Mom was not eager to start all over. But she's absolutely worth it. And Thea Sandy finally got her namesake. Mom loved being one of three sisters and was now raising her own set of three sisters. As she told us all the time, your sisters are forever. She didn't know her bucket list included having a family of 5, but now she and we couldn't imagine it any other way. Lucky for Mom, her sisters also started having kids. Mom cherished being a mother with her sisters and adored her nieces and nephews. Mom also started leaning into her wild side around this time. She was introduced to Aerosmith and started a tradition of going to concerts with sisters and friends dressing up in glam rock outfits. She was also introduced to Judith Covarrubias Hernandez, her fiercely independent friend who became another Thea to us. This led to tattoos, lots of shopping, and pushing Mom to allow us to get our ears pierced.
2001 brought a significant change to Ludim's life, her first grandchild, Evan. Mom did not want to be called Grandma, so she created her own title, Fufu, short for Fufu Shishi Lala. She was instrumental in raising Evan, and he held a special place in her heart as the first and so far only grandson, calling him her little man. She took care of Evan multiple times per week, loved holding him while he slept, smelling his head and showering him with kisses and colonia menen. In 2001, Mom, Dad, and I moved from Redlands to Palm Springs. In the 21 years Mom spent there, she put down deep roots, making more friends who became family. Her new neighbor, Jackie, became another sister. She worked at Contour Dermatology and became a part of the Contour family. Nancy and Larry shared so many meals and laughter. The ladies of the desert dinners were a delight. Mom made friends everywhere, including at her favorite restaurants and stores, Spencer's, La Valerise, and Ooh La La. My mom generously gave of her time to many local causes. She and Dad chaired the American Cancer Society Gala one year. She held babies in the NICU, provided music education to local elementary schools through the Steinway Society, and played piano in nearby nursing homes with Larry. During these Palm Springs years, the grandkids kept coming. Ludim's second grandchild, Elliot, was followed quickly by Lilia and Sonia. Mom was overjoyed to learn late last year that her fifth grandchild is on the way. She loved being a fufu and built special connections with each of her grandkids. For many summers, she and Dad would have a couple weeks with the grandkids all to themselves, often taking them to the beach. She shared her love of fashion and makeup with Elliot and Lilia, and shared so many cuddles with Sonia.
And along with these grandkids came their fathers, John, Kevin, and soon-to-be dad, Connor. Mom never knew she wanted sons until these three came along. She loved them each as her own and got a real kick out of having such tall and Chinese and Irish sons. In 2008, Mom, Tia Esther, and Tia Sandy surprised their parents by joining them on a cruise. They literally jumped out of nowhere after the ship had left the dock and surprised them. It was their last big family vacation, spent laughing, reminiscing, and just being with each other. This was a special bucket list item for Mom, not because of the cruise or the destination, but because of the incredible connection she had with her family. While the next years taking care of her dad, her mom, and her mother-in-law were often difficult, Mom poured all of herself into making sure they were surrounded by love to the very end. She was the ultimate caregiver. In 2019, we took our last big family vacation to Colombia. Mom, dad, daughters, sons-in-law, and all the grandkids. Mom bought beautiful jewelry with Dad in Bogota. We joined the Pride Parade in Medellin, and we created memories we'll always treasure.
There are many here that we did not get a chance to mention individually or do justice to capturing the depth of the relationship you had with Ludim. Her bucket list was not as important as what she called her love bucket. Any time you spent together, at concerts, on trips, at reunions, or cuddling on the couch, filled her bucket with love. To honor her, reflect on a life well lived, and add the moments that brought you joy and meaning to your own bucket list while continuing to fill each other's buckets with love.
My beloved sister, my best friend, my confidant.
You've left a tremendous hole in my heart. You've taken part of me with you.
I can't find the right words to describe who you were and what you've meant to me. You were my older sister. However, with time, that faded. We became like twins. You were soft-spoken, but had a strong will inside, yet to be showcased. I recall when you were about 6 years old, during recess at the Foothills School in Napa, a boy snatched my baby doll and threw it into some gravel. I cried and screamed, and you immediately came to defend me. You grabbed a handful of gravel and threw it at him, which got you in trouble. You were made to sweep the walkway after school.
That didn't bother you a bit because you would always defend me at any cost. You knew as well that I would do the same for you. That stayed true throughout our lives. It stands true today, too. As we got older, you grew in grace and talent. Throughout our elementary school years, you were steadfast at practicing the piano. Mom and Dad showcased you deservingly. You were the center of attention at many gatherings as you displayed your refined skills. You were someone to be admired. I recall that for the most part, you never got in trouble unless you were with me. You followed all the rules: house, church, school, social. You wanted to please, not make waves. You would just tell me, that's the way it's supposed to be. On the other hand, I broke all the rules, and discipline came swiftly. This would cause you so much grief to the point of tears. You would tell me, sis, don't do this to me. I don't want you to get in trouble. You had such a tender, loving heart. Our adolescent and early teenage years were interrupted by moving to a foreign country, Venezuela. Initially, we struggled with the Spanish language. However, you seemed to become more outgoing and had many boys interested in you. You were pretty, kind, and to top it all off, you of course played the piano. Being proud of you came easy. There was nothing to not like about you. Your gentle spirit was hard to contain. I speed forward to our adult lives. As you moved into motherhood, I could see how much energy, time, and love, devotion you gave to your 3 daughters. I so admired you. As we grew older, we got even closer, and the bond between us stronger.
You became more self-confident, more self-assured, speaking your mind.
We lived different lives, yet our tastes were so familiar. We talked about everything and nothing, from raising children to lipstick colors, to politics, to attire, to God, to church, and especially what shoes to buy. We spoke or texted almost daily. If you hadn't heard from Sandy or I, you would send us a text exclaiming, "Hey, where's everybody? What's going on?" We both liked a variety of music. We went to many concerts like Chicago, Josh Groban, Guns N' Roses, and especially Aerosmith. You told me that you wanted to go to all of their concerts. We had talked about going to see them this summer, so Jerry and I are going to see them in September, and you'll be there with us. We would confide in each other our deepest fears, doubts, and secrets. We played off each other like a comedy team, laughing at our inside jokes. We were part of each other's daily lives. We had unconditional love for each other. We promised we would never be apart, even if physically distant.
I can honestly say our souls are connected. You have part of me with you now, and I have part of you with me too. I feel your presence. I hear your voice. You are part of my very soul. We will continue life together. We promised we could not live without each other. So you've kept your promise, and I will keep mine. Talk to you later, sis. I love you and always will.
I'm Sandy Guzman Vigil. Being the youngest, I have been spoiled by my sisters in so many different ways. I've been told that both were very anxiously awaiting for my arrival. You see, my mom had promised them dolls when I arrived. I have always looked up to them and admired the unconditional love they shared with each other. Being 18 months apart, they were inseparable. Once I finally grew up and stopped tattling on them, I was welcomed into their circle. My sister Ludim was a music lover, like has been mentioned already. I admired her playing the piano at the Hayward Spanish Seventh Adventist Church at a very young age. This encouraged me to also learn how to play. But once she left for college, it was my turn to take her place at the piano. During our phone conversations, she encouraged me and helped me overcome my anxiety. I also attended many different piano recitals. And the one I do remember the most was the one in Napa that Melissa had mentioned. She was amazing. It was like, wow, it was great. You are here today because my sister Ludim impacted your lives in different ways, just like she did with our family. Her character was one that went unnoticed. When you were down, she encouraged you. When unsure about a situation, she listened and empowered you to do your best. When going through a difficult time, she would say, "This too shall pass." When sick or someone you knew was sick, she was ready to use her nursing knowledge to help you get through it. During our gatherings of family and friends, she filled us up with her love, humor, laughter, and her caring spirit. My sister Ludim was a sower of seeds. By this I mean she sowed seeds of kindness, seeds of laughter, seeds of generosity, seeds of compassion, seeds of hospitality, and mostly seeds of unconditional love. As she planted these seeds in each one of us, may we continue to nourish them and not miss opportunities to enhance the lives of those around us, just like she did. Wherever my sister was, she drew people like sand to a magnet. She loved to serve those in need. When opportunity would arise, she did her best to fulfill that need. Family was everything to her, and she was everything to us. She made it a point not only to be present for different events, but also to take part in it in any way possible. My cousin called me this morning, Julie, first cousin from my dad's side. And she reminded me of something that was quite humorous. I was not going to share that with you, but I just felt it was just her. Julie said, you know, where is it? In October, she says, they were talking. And Ludim sent her a picture of a t-shirt. And it said, "At my funeral, take the bouquet off my coffin and throw it into the crowd to see who is next." I go, oh boy. Good thing we don't have a coffin today. I was not going to share that, but you know, that's just, you guys know my sister. My sister was both beautiful inside and out. She was classy and sassy in her own way. She was my rock and my hero. I know that we will all walk a different journey without her, but I have a peace and joy in my heart that we will be reunited again. At the end of life, what really matters is not what we bought, but what we built. Not what we got, but what we shared. Not our competence, but our character. And not our success, but our significance. Ludim lived a life that mattered because she lived a life of love. I love you, Ludim, and you will always be in my heart.
Good morning. My name is Natalie Guzman Vigil, and behind me are some of Ludim's nieces and nephews, Nicholas, Nicole, Nadine Zamiski, Noel, Nathan, Fallon. My cousins and I had the privilege of calling her Artia, and to her great niece Harlow, who will always remember her as Fufu. On behalf of all of us, we would like to dedicate this tribute to our Tia Ludim. Our Tia Ludim was someone who we all looked up to. She dedicated 100% of her life to her friends and family. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind and live her truth within her full authenticity. She could light up an entire building with her presence and melt the hardest of hearts with just a smile. She also cared deeply about what her nieces and nephews had going on in their lives. She was there for us, whether it was a phone call away or by being front and center at every one of our events. When we would see her, it was always, "Hi, sweetie, how are you? What is going on in your life? How is your significant other doing? How are you, my Tweety bird?" She wanted to know every single detail, even the details we were keeping from her sisters. She would always tell us, "Just keep having fun, nothing less than fun." Tia Ludim, as we all know, was an advocate for strength training and daily exercise. We were all impressed with her dedication and commitment to health. There is no doubt about her abilities to deadlift and squat more than her nieces and nephews. Not only did she teach us to lead a healthy lifestyle, but she also taught us about her love for music and style. Her love for music ranged from classical music to classic rock. We all enjoyed listening to her play the piano and even seeing how much fun she had at her Aerosmith concerts. There's no doubt that our Tia had the best style. She was elegant and she was proud, with a red bottom kick and a swing of her Louis Vuitton bag. Every time we would see her, she would have the best outfit put together. She would tell us, "If you want the shoes, buy the shoes. If you want the purse, buy the purse." To say that our Tia Ludim will be missed is an understatement. It is going to be difficult to not pick up the phone and give her a phone call. It is going to be difficult to not see her at every major family event and not hear her laugh as she lovingly banters with everyone, especially her Theo Jerry. She has taught us to come together in difficult times, and we will do exactly that. We will continue to surround ourselves with loved ones and carry on our Tia Ludim's stories and loving personalities. To our primas, Melissa, Michelle, and Maggie. Thank you for sharing your beautiful mommy with us. She was the light of our lives, and we will continue to love her unconditionally. We love you three very much, and we will all make sure to do our best to make our Tia Ludim proud in all the things that we do. You have changed our lives, Tia Ludim. And we will miss you tremendously. We love you to the moon and back.
Mom and I were together for 45 years. We had thousands of hellos and goodbyes. Of those, there are 3 goodbyes that are deeply ingrained in my memory. The first goodbye was when I was 18. It was just a couple of weeks before I would leave home for college, and Mom and I took a weekend trip to LA, just the 2 of us, which I now realize wasn't easy because this one was really little. We saw Beauty and the Beast musical and stayed at a hotel in Century City. That night, I remember hugging her in bed and just crying. I was scared to leave home. Mom reassured me that she loved me, that she was proud of me, and that I was going to be okay, that I was going to be more than okay. And she was right. I left home and went to school, and then even more school, and then into my career. And my mom was always my biggest fan, so sure that I would do well, and so happy for my every success. She believed in me and helped me believe in myself. The second goodbye was a week or so after my oldest daughter, Lilia, was born. Mom came to stay with me and Kevin after we brought Lilia home from the hospital. And like all first-time moms, I had no idea what I was doing. My mom, on the other hand, was not only a natural caregiver who loved babies, but she was already on her 3rd grandkid. I watched and tried to learn as Mom gave Lilia her first bath, changed her diapers, and helped put her to sleep. Mom also took care of me that week. She made me plates of fruit, made sure I got a bit of sleep, and eased my transition into motherhood. At the end of that first week, it was time for Mom to go home. I remember I was in my pajamas, but who knows how late in the day it was. I hugged her goodbye and I sobbed. I remember telling her that I didn't know how to take care of Lilia without her, that I wasn't sure I could even keep her alive. Mom was a little teary too, but she also laughed. She said I was going to be a great mom. And for the next 15 years, Mom encouraged me every time I doubted myself. She always told me I was a good mom, which of course meant the world coming from her. And then I said my last goodbye a few weeks ago, years and really decades before I was ready, before any of us were ready. And like the first 2 goodbyes, I was and still am just at a loss. I don't know how I'm going to step into the next phase of my life without her. But just like the times before, I know I'll be sustained by her faith in me and the memories of her constant love. Love you, Mama.
I checked in with my sisters and confirmed that growing up, I got the fun mom. She had built up her mom confidence and was able to just enjoy whatever I threw at her, which was a lot. She reminded me often, always while laughing, of how much I used the excuse, "It was an accident." She also thought my lisp was cute. But instead of worrying about correcting me, she would imitate me, in a loving way, of course. Speech therapists mostly cleared it up. When I was 3, I tripped, bit my tongue, and needed stitches. On the way to the hospital, I was crying, not because of the pain, but because I wanted a French fry. After telling me multiple times this was a terrible idea, she said, "Fine, have the fry, see what happens." She got a good laugh out of that one. My friends thought she was cool. She teased them and wrote them excuses for tardies and to get them out of John Hall's PE class. And with some thanks to Megan, my curfew was more of a suggestion. She gave me and herself the freedom to be carefree about how I grew up. She was excited for me to explore and be whoever I wanted to become. She was young and coming into her own as a woman. She was exploring and discovering more of what she loved, and I learned along with her. I remember driving around with her, listening and learning all the lyrics to 70s and 80s soft and hard rock. She tried her best to teach me some fashion sense, but that one never quite took. She got particularly frustrated when I cut my jeans. She stopped skiing sometime when I was in my tweens, and later told me that one day she realized she just didn't like it, so she didn't have to do it. This taught me to check in with myself and ask, do I like this? Not just about skiing, but anything. I reminded her of this recently, and her eyes lit up, and she said, I learned you something. Yes, Mama, you did. But most importantly, she was my safe place. We shared a love language of physical touch. I gave her a card once that said, "Huggers raise huggers." I was always holding her hand, sitting in her lap. I remember coming home every day from school, and I would jump in her arms, and she would carry me around, and I would just tell her every single thing that happened. During a difficult time last year, I had come to see her and almost immediately lay down in her lap. She instinctively started stroking my hair. It didn't matter that I was 40 years old. As she always said, I was still her baby. While I was nervous when I told her I was pregnant the first time, I held her hand because ultimately I wasn't scared of what she would think. I knew she would support and love me no matter what. Her love has always been unconditional. And I know that not just because she's my mom, but because I saw it every day in her actions with me and others. I found a card she wrote me when I moved out of the house. She quoted a poem saying, I, who was never quite sure about being a girl, needed another life and another image to remind me. I made you to find me. We grew up together, me as a girl and her as a woman. And while I can't imagine the rest of my life without her, I can only hold on to what she showed me in her own growth, to love myself and others unconditionally.
If Mom didn't tell you, or in case you didn't know, I'm pregnant. When I told my mom in October, she was speechless for what may have been the very first time in my life. She liked to tell people, my baby is having a baby. She taught me a lot about being a mom, just through watching her take care of so many kids at the Inland Regional Center, and of course, all of her grandkids. The importance of soft lighting and soothing tones before bedtime, how to be fiercely protective without being overbearing, and generally the importance of showing up as best you can, even when you don't feel like it. In a card for her newest grandchild, she wrote, I will be your biggest fan, and I had no doubt she would be. Mom was one of my favorite people, and she definitely was my biggest fan. Through all the rough patches in her life, she would say, you have to laugh when you can. Being able to carry this grief with my sisters has made the load just a little lighter, even finding time to laugh now and then. Knowing they, and so many of you, have gone through the journey of motherhood with her gives me hope I can continue to walk in her footsteps. My sweet baby, Fufu will be your biggest fan. I will tell you stories of how much she loved you
and how she made me smile. We will watch her favorite movies and sing her favorite songs. I can only hope you and I have a bond like Mom and I did. We may fight or disagree and even drive each other a little crazy. But kiddo, I promise to love you to the moon and back, just like my mom taught me.
Just would like to reiterate, as you can clearly see, that Ludim was the glue that held not only our family together, but the broader family. And I am so proud of my three girls, and they are the greatest tribute to her life and to her parenting skills and her devotion to all of us. Thank you. I am so proud of you.
There are some times when the Lord Almighty mark out your calendar and says, I'll explain you later. This is one of those days. Let's bow our heads for prayer. God of all mystery, whose ways are beyond understanding, lead us, please, who grieve at this untimely death, to a new and deeper faith in your love. Thank you, because you are with us at this sad but precious moment. We place our beloved Ludim in your lovely hands. In Jesus' name, amen.
Fufu would always tell us, I love you to the moon and back. And we would, of course, say, we love her to the moon and back too.
I hope these last words express how much we still love her and know that her love for all of us continues.
Picture a wave in the ocean. You can see it, measure it, its height, the way the sun refracts when it passes through, and it's there, and you can see it. You know what it is. It's a wave.
And then it crashes into the shore, and it's gone. But the water is still there. The wave was just a different way for the water to be for a little while. It's one way to think about death. The wave returns to the ocean, where it came from and where it's supposed to be.
I love you in the way the moon loves the earth, revolving around you, guarding you, protecting you with my shadow. I love you in the way the earth loves the sun, constantly dancing around you as you shine the brightest in the solar system.
I love you in the way the stars exist in the Milky Way, millions upon millions of reasons, some brighter than others. My love for you is a universe all in itself. It's complex, yet easy. It's intrinsic, yet simplistic. It's constantly exploding, yet calm. Just like the galaxies, I love you endlessly.
Whether you think of Thea Ludim's love like a wave or like the distance to the moon and back, we know it has shaped and molded us in the very best of ways. All of us are who we are because of her and her love.
We come together from the diversity of our grieving to gather in the warmth of this community, giving stubborn witness to our belief that in times of sadness, there is room for laughter. In times of darkness, there will always be light. May we hold fast to the conviction that what we do with our lives matters and that a caring world is possible after all.
We're going to have one more reading after this, and then the piano will play. Afterwards, I would like to excuse the family to join us in the fellowship hall, where all of you are invited to join us for a lunch so that we can continue sharing in the love and memories we have together.